Hi, this is Wendy. Welcome to my channel. Today I have a scarf pattern for you that is super easy to make, looks very interesting to wear, and can be done with any yarn that you might have in your stash. It's called the Triad Scarf. I've made one already in a worsted weight yarn, and I used Caron Blossom Cakes for that. This is an acrylic cotton blend. It's a number 4 weight yarn, and I used a 5mm hook. Today I'll be making another one in Caron Skinny Cakes. This is a number 3 weight yarn, and I'll be using the recommended hook size, which is a 4mm hook. This is 100% acrylic yarn, and the color name is Tiramisu. So to begin this scarf, you'll need a chain of 32. I used the same number for my starting chain for the worsted weight one, but you can see that this one's going to be shorter. So this will be more of a child size or a narrower scarf. And later on, I'll explain to you how you can make this scarf in any width you want with any yarn that you would like to work with. So once you have your chain of 32, the next step is to double crochet in the third chain from the hook across until we reach the last 2. Stop when you get to the last 2 because we'll do something else there. So yarn over, go into the work. Now you can go into this third chain like this, or tip it around and go into the bump on the back. I prefer doing that because it gives a neater edge on the other side. So I'm going to do a double crochet in the back of each chain across and stop when I have 2 left. And I'll join you then. So I double crocheted across. There are 2 stitches left here at the end, and in the last 2 I'm going to do a double crochet 2 together. This is a decrease stitch. If you haven't made one before, it starts like a regular double crochet with a yarn over, go into the work, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. Now typically we'd go through the next 2, but we're going to leave those on the hook for now and start the next double crochet. Yarn over, go into the chain, pick up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. So now you've got 3 loops on the hook and 2 partially finished double crochets. Now yarn over and pull through all 3. So you've got 2 double crochets that are joined together as one stitch. When you look on the top, you can see there's just one V at the top of those 2 stitches. So this is one of the most important things to remember for this scarf. In each row, you'll have a decrease on each end. Now our first decrease is formed by the chain 2 and the first double crochet. This will become more clear when we do the following rows. Our last decrease is that double crochet 2 together. So from my starting chain of 32, what I have on this row is a decrease, 27 double crochets, and another decrease at the other end. So 29 stitches. So if I count these V's across the top, I'll have 29. This is about the only point in the pattern where you should count, is that first row. Make sure you have 29 stitches at the end of your first row. And we are going to form a triangle. So you can see on this worsted weight version, there's a triangle here and then another triangle that works off of it. And there's no joining of yarns here. It's just done with one continuous strand, which is one of the nice things about this pattern. And the other thing that's really important to note is that your 3 sides should be equilateral when you're done making your triangle. So in this case, each of my 3 sides is 9 inches. It will be less for this number 3 weight version, of course, because it's a little bit smaller. But if your triangle is not coming out 3 equal sides, you may need to adjust your hook size. For row 2, we're going to turn and chain 2. That's a little different than what you might be used to with a starting double crochet, but because we're doing a decrease stitch at the beginning, I'm only going to chain 2. So now I need to double crochet in the next stitch. This can be confusing for a beginner. This first stitch at the base of the chain, right there, that belongs to the chain. So we're not going to stitch into that one. We're going to go to this one, which if you look at the stitches here, it's going to be the 1, 2, 3, 4th V from the hook. So if you're confused, we've got 2 chains. This is the first double crochet. We're going to go into this second double crochet. So it looks like this. And that's going to be our starting decrease stitch. The top of that stitch is this V right next to the hook here. Okay, I know I'm belaboring the point a little bit, but this is where you're going to get confused, if anywhere, on this scarf. Once you get this down, the rest of it is easy. Now, double crochet across, again until the last 2 stitches. Each row will decrease by 2. So after this row, I'll have 27 stitches. 25 double crochets in the middle, plus 1 decrease on each end. Okay, so again, stop when you get to the last 2 stitches. If you look at the top of the work, you'll see there are 2 V's left here. One belongs to this double crochet here, and one belongs to this decreased pair at the end, which was formed by a chain 2 and a double crochet. If you're not sure you've got the right number, just go back and count. It should be 2 less than your previous row. So I'm going to work that double crochet 2 together again. Start the first double crochet, don't finish it. Start the next double crochet, pick up a loop, pull through the first 2. Now you'll have 2 partially finished double crochets and 3 loops, and pull the strand through all 3. You can see it's starting to slant in on both sides. And from here on out, it's the same thing over and over, the same row. Chain 2, double crochet in the rest of the stitches across, and then in the last 2, double crochet 2 together. You'll keep doing that each row until it comes to a point. One thing that comes with experience is learning how to read your stitches, and that's really helpful if you're having some trouble with your last decrease stitch. Where do you put the decrease stitches? Well, you can see here I have this turning chain and 2 double crochets left, and when you're putting your hook into a double crochet, you can see that it goes slightly past the post of the stitch, right? And when you turn it up, you'll see there's 2 V's left there, and those are my last 2 stitches. So I'm going to decrease with this one and ignore this turning chain because that's part of this decrease. So that's the end of my row. And you can see we're getting a nice side to the triangle here. Turn and chain 2 as before. Double crochet in the second chain from, or so the second double crochet from the hook, which is not this one, right? Because these two together make the first stitch. The second one is this one right there. Once you get the hang of that, this scarf is really easy to make. You don't really have to count anymore. So that's what it should look like at the beginning. So when you get to the row that has a decrease, a double crochet, and a decrease, you should be at 14 rows if you started with 32 stitches. If you find that it doesn't look right, one problem-solving strategy you can use is to count how many double crochets are between your decreases. There should always be an odd number. So if you find that in one row you've got an even number between your decreases, that's the row where you went wrong. Because at the end here, we want to end up with just one double crochet between these two decreases. And in the last row, the 15th in this case, we're going to turn and chain 2. And just like before, double crochet in the next stitch, but that is also our second last stitch. So we're going to double crochet 2 together. So I've got a chain 2, 2 partial double crochets, and 3 loops on my hook, and I'm going to pull the strand through all 3. That's the end of the triangle. And again, double check, make sure it's 3 sides the same, an equilateral triangle. And we're going to start our next triangle working down the right hand side. So you need to turn as if you're going to do another row, but we're going to work down this edge. If you don't remember to turn after your last row, your scarf is going to take a right hand turn instead of being a row of triangles all neatly beside each other. The next step to work down the side is to work 2 double crochets in the side of each row. So just like before, we're going to start this row with a chain 2 and then put 2 double crochets in the side of each row. So again, the chain 2 and the first double crochet are going to work as a single stitch. Put a second one in that row, and then 2 in the side of each row going down. Just find an equal spot. I like to do one sort of at the top of the row and one right around the last stitch. Working your way down, 2 double crochets for each of the rows. And because you have 15 rows, you'll end up with 29 stitches, just like the first triangle that you made at the bottom of this one, because the first 2 and the last 2 are decreased stitches again. When you get to the last row, work a double crochet 2 together. All right, so there's your setup row. The chain 2 and the first double crochet function as one decrease. Then you'll have 27 double crochets and another decrease, exactly the same as the way you started out this triangle. Now you're going to work a triangle here, flip it around at the end, just like you did with this one, and carry on. The next row starts just the same way, turn and chain 2, double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet across to the last 2 stitches, and double crochet those 2 together. So this row will have a total of 27 stitches. So as long as you count your first row to make sure that you have a decrease on either end and 27 in the middle for a total of 29, you really don't need to count too much after that. It becomes very simple and straightforward. And I mentioned that you can use any yarn for this. I really like a variegated or a striping yarn to bring out the triangles. But the weight doesn't so much matter. As long as the 3 sides of your triangle are the same, the number of stitches is less important. So if you start with any even number, that will equal the width of the scarf that you want. So your first triangle, the side of your first triangle determines the width of your scarf. So you can chain any even number of stitches. If you wanted to do 40 or 48 or 52, doesn't matter. Then work the next row in the same way that we started this one by double crocheting in the 3rd chain across and double crochet 2 together in the last chain. That will equal a number that's 3 stitches less than your starting chain. So if you started with 52, you're going to have 49 stitches at the end of your first row. And then just carry on, decreasing on either side until your triangle reaches a point. Turn around and start your next triangle by putting 2 stitches in the side of each row, making sure that at the end of that row you have the same number of stitches as you had in the first row of your previous triangle. So any yarn will work. Just make your chain as wide as you want your scarf to be in an even number and carry on from there. I thought I'd stop after the second triangle here and just show you how it looks. So I finished the second one. At the end I turned and I went down the side again with my 2 double crochets in each space, double crochet 2 together in the last 2 stitches, and then I'll continue and make another triangle here and just carry on making all the triangles in a row until the scarf reaches the length that I want, or I've used up all the yarn, whatever my decision is at that point. You will have a pointy end on the scarf. You can add some tassels if you like, or a bit of a picot edging, or just leave it plain. It's entirely up to you. So here's the Triad scarf all finished. I chose to add a fringe to this one, and with the number 4 weight yarn scarf I just did a simple single crochet edging on that one. In both cases I used just over 400 meters of yarn, so somewhere between 400 and 450 will get you either the number 3 weight scarf or the number 4 weight scarf. So I would count on 450, and that'll give you enough for the fringe and a little extra length if you want to. But as you can see from the photos, these are quite long. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope that you found it was fairly easy to do with the tutorial. Drop me a comment if you enjoyed it, and let me know if you made it for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you'll consider subscribing for more videos. Have a super day.